Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. Today is July 30th, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings to train, to support, to educate, to assist. Appreciate you taking time to be out to be with us today or listening to the recording if that happens to be your circumstance. Yesterday, we had a really practical, really important conversation on ABL, asset-based lending, and we'll call that part one. Thus, today is part two. We're going to follow up on what we covered yesterday. We're not going to be redundant. We're not going to go back and revisit everything we covered yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's, really encourage you to view the recording on our YouTube channel. Before we get started on a couple housekeeping issues, many of you are opening branch offices, which is awesome. We now have our vendor list put together. So we're using Xerox. We've got a great contact, Mike. Just got a phone with him a few minutes ago. Mike at Xerox. So we're going to get your color laser scanner device set up in your office so you can have a paperless office. The scanning software is advanced, so it's searchable. It can do auto redacting. So you don't have to do that for your branch office, but we recommend that. We've negotiated a really good price. You're staying under $5,000 for that, and they come out and set it up. As far as computers, we're working with Lenovo, and we've got some great pricing with Lenovo. Most of you are getting the desktops with the dual monitors, so we can get all that set up for your branch office. And then for the furniture itself, we're working with Eureka Ergonomics, and they have those rising desks. They'll do some schematics of your office, figure out the right size desk for each room, and we're at about $3,000 a desk there with the discount. So if you're opening a branch office and you're ready to start getting the furniture and technology, let us know. We've got those discounts and those vendor relationships in place. We're moving into our new office starting tomorrow. The furniture is coming today. The assembly will be tomorrow. Computers are coming in Friday, and then the Xerox is coming in early next week. But today's topic is asset-based lending part two. Again, if you missed part one, this may not make entire sense to you, but still stay with us and maybe go back and watch part one on our YouTube channel. So as we discussed yesterday, we covered how asset-based lending, ABL for short, is a type of financing where a company borrows money using their assets as collateral. So essentially, instead of focusing on credit and the normal underwriting that normal lenders would do for normal loans, it's based primarily on the value of the assets. Now, there's some nuances to ABL, and I realized we needed to come back and dig another layer deeper based upon some of the questions and comments and even concerns some of you had. As we did mention yesterday, typically we won't use ABL for small capital raises. Typically needs to be $1 million or more, can go up a lot to very high numbers, but usually the floor for ABL is 1 million. I know a lot of people say, well, that sounds great, but they don't have the assets. We provide that. So it's not that you'll find yourselves without the chocolate chips to make chocolate chip cookies. We'll provide you the chocolate chips. So that's kind of a recap from yesterday. What we didn't discuss, and this was a question, I think it was Ernest, was asking, how are these structured? So they're actually structured one of two ways. We can do asset-based loans and or asset-based lines of credit. I recommend that every business have at least one line of credit. I know we do, and I just used ours to buy that Xerox 30 minutes ago. But the bottom line is loans is where you get a lump sum up front. So you're paying it back monthly, and the interest rates accrue on the entire amount because you're getting the entire disbursement up front. If that's not what you need, then we can do a line of credit. The line of credit allows you to pull the funds when you need them. As you pay it down, it frees up more credit lines. You can use it over and over. And of course, you only pay interest on what you use. So no, it's not a business credit card. I know it has some similar attributes. But so for asset-based lending, ABL, two types of structures, loans or lines of credit. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't, but a couple of you were asking. So again, as we go through, if you have any questions, comments, concerns on the ABL, go ahead and type it into the Q&A. It's kind of like a chat function of Zoom, and we'll address those. Okay, so we're good there. Another one of you, and I forget if it was France, I think it might have been France, was asking, well, are there many players in this market? Yes. And what we talked about yesterday, there's 7 behemoths, 7 incredibly large ABL lenders that literally, the largest of which literally has $1 trillion of assets to lend. That's at the far end of the continuum. But altogether, we have access to over 2,000 different commercial lenders, everything from national banks, regional community banks, specific asset-based lenders, non-bank lending institutions, mezzanine funds, private credit, and venture debt. So again, there's not a shortage of money in the marketplace. There is almost an infinite amount of money available, but the borrower has to be qualified, and that's what you and I solve. Most clients don't have a fundable business. That's what we fix. That's what we create. We're not the lenders. The platform that we're using for asset-based lending is very, very well established, and I had asked for an update yesterday so I could report back today. And as of yesterday, they report that they have created proposals for 7.7 billion. Now, what that means is that anytime we take a client through, they'll get a funding proposal and then they can accept it or reject it. Maybe it's not the amount that they wanted, maybe it's not the interest rate or the terms. The client's always in control. Clients in our model are not delegating power of attorney to us, so it's not as if they're going to get stuck with something that they don't like. But certainly, lots of money, lots of capital available. And then another one of you were asking kind of what's the catch, or what do we need to know that we didn't cover? And that is a very good point. There are specific reporting requirements that's typically involved with ABL that is not involved normally with traditional loans. So we're going to go through this section here, liquidation and reporting. Two different items, but it's kind of the rest of the story, if you will. If you remember Paul Harvey, rest in peace. All right, so from a liquidation and reporting, liquidation means that we're helping the clients take the AR that we transfer to them. They use that as collateral for the loan. That's obvious. But then we turn around and liquidate it. We collect the money. And we hinted towards that yesterday, but maybe we weren't clear enough. So that allows the client to really have 2 levels of economic benefit. By having the collateral, then they can get the loan. But on top of that, in addition to that, then we can liquidate the AR and turn that into cash, money in their bank. We're licensed, we're insured, we're bonded to do this, and we can provide that. And it's very similar to the OBD. A number of you now are participating in the outsourced business development, where our team develops the ads, places the ads, presents to the prospect, closes the prospects, collects the money. It's outsourced sales and marketing. Well, this is similar in terms of a turnkey approach. There's literally nothing you have to do. We take care of it all. So that's liquidation. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about liquidation, let me know. Kenny's asking about the cost. So what I think you'll love, and maybe even find very clever, we're paid to collect the money, to liquidate the AR based upon the money collected from the debtor. So you got 2 parties. You got the debtor, the person that owes the money, and the creditor, your client. So we collect on behalf of the creditor. getting the money from the debtors using legal and ethical means. And then the collection and legal costs are added on top of the base amount. Therefore, the cost for us to provide the collection services is not paid for by the client, not paid for by the creditor. It's an additional cost to the debtor. So yes, we're paid for collecting that money. That's how the system works. But the nice thing is it's not coming out of the pocket of your client, it's coming out of the pocket of the debtor. All right, thank you, Kenny, for that question. Now, the second of the two items we needed to cover here, which is really, really important. We didn't discuss this yesterday. It wasn't like a willing omission, but we realize a lot of you are very curious. So there are typically, not always, but typically reporting requirements if we're using ABL. Depending upon the lender, they may require weekly or monthly reporting, but we'll take care of that for you. So what does that mean? Why is that important? Why would they care? So let's say that you've got Dr. Fulcher on here. So let's say that Dr. Fulcher has a client that wants $1 million and we use ABL for it. Great. So we've been able to substantiate the qualifications for the loan based upon the company's assets. Dr. Fulcher's client gets $1 million. Dr. Fulcher gets his 5 points. He gets 50,000 for brokering the deal. That's great. And then the lender may in fact want ongoing reporting from Dr. Fulcher's client, the end client, about how is this AR performing. And so that's why it's important that we are liquidating. Typically, we're not going to be able to get an ABL, an asset-based loan, off of AR as collateral if we're not actively collecting it, because they want to see that that money's coming in, because that was the collateral. They don't want you to just go get $1 million loan. They want you to make a demonstrated effort to collect the AR, because that better assures that they'll be paid back. Again, we take care of that for you through the liquidation. And the liquidation not only puts money in your pocket, it may very well be a requirement of the lender for reporting, but we cover that. So it's not a burden to you, but that's correct. We didn't discuss that yesterday. Anyone have questions on liquidation and reporting? Okay. So with that being said, Kenny asked another question, and it actually feeds right into pricing. So he's asking, well, if we're going to do $1 million as a floor, and could there be an exception made? Sure. I mean, we commonly provide collateral for smaller increments than $1 million, but normally not for this type of lending. So with that being said, with $1 million capital raise, if we needed to transfer $1 million of the collateral, Kenny's just asking straight up, well, what's it going to cost? Well, we actually have a promotion going on, and that's what we're going to cover next. So Kenny, thank you for feeding us right into the next topic. So we have a limited time promotion, but we only have a few of these, and it's $1 million portfolio, and we're able to provide it for 1% of the asset value. So the client is paying 1% on the 1 million portfolio. We sign a bill of sale. We legally and ethically transfer that portfolio of assets to the client. And now the client's able to use that for underwriting purposes for the ABL. So it's legitimate, it's real, it works. So that's the answer, Kenny, to the pricing. Now, that's not our normal pricing. Normally it's more. We've set aside 5 portfolios for this discounted pricing, and as you'd expect, it's first come, first serve. So if you have any clients, most of you are distribution partners. If you're not, you're just a client, then you're welcome to participate. But if you're a distribution partner, you have a client that's looking for $1 million or more capital raise, we can extend to them this limited time promotion. Now I see that Willie's asking, how does he get paid? Well, that's a great question. So, as a distribution partner, just like in the Dr. Fulcher example, you're getting paid 5 points, 5% of the client's capital raise. So, that's the most direct answer. That's kind of what's built in. But I think what Willie's getting at is, can he mark this up? Because frankly, this is too low of a price. We're kind of giving it away. So, yes, Willie, if you wanted to buy the portfolio, we can transfer it to you, and then you can sell it to your client at a higher amount. You could charge them 2 or 3%. It's still a great deal, and you could double or triple your money. But that would be us transferring, having a transfer from us to you, and then we can facilitate from you to them if you're wanting to mark it up. But at this point, there's not a commission built into this, but you're certainly able to buy it and resell it and mark it up. And so we can facilitate all the bill of sales to make sure that the record keeping straight. Any questions on the limited time promotion? Okay. So the bottom line is we're here as a 501c3 nonprofit to do three things. We have three mandates. Number one, improve financial literacy. Number two, give away free Shelf Corps. And number three, help clients use one and two to access capital. This is a great strategy. Not the only strategy, but a great strategy. So with no risk to the client, we can get them a fundable entity that comes in the form of the Express Shelf Corp. We can help them build out their loan package. We can transfer the assets that they need for strong financials. And in writing, we guarantee the funding. All right, so let's get to any questions, comments, concerns you have. And then again, if you need to reach us individually, this is the text support line. This is not a phone number that's answered. We have a different phone number you'll see on our website that's answered live. This is for text support. All right, Selena's asking the dates. Well, it's not as date driven as the fact we have 5 portfolios. And as I mentioned, it's first come, first serve. So there's the answer. Clinton says he wants one, and that's fine. So what will happen is we just need to get the paperwork done. So this is paid for us to transfer the asset. Some people want things in life that they can't afford. So normally then we would need to go to financing. So with approved credit, we can get third-party financing to pay the 1% if needed. Kenny asks, can we liquidate if the client has their own AR? Well, we are licensed, bonded, and insured as a debt collector. So theoretically, we could. We're quite busy just taking care of this model, but we could discuss it. But our primary focus is getting clients funding through the ABL. Most people don't have the A, they want the L, they want the money, but they don't usually have the assets. So we have a unique ability to provide the assets and then facilitate the funding. And part of that is the liquidation, and another part is the reporting. So we can take care of both of those for the clients. All right, so hopefully what you've taken away from both yesterday and today's training is that ABL is great. It's probably the most overlooked strategy for small businesses to get funding because it cuts through a lot of the red tape. Instead of worrying about the borrower's credit history, because a lot of these folks, they don't have good credit like you and I. They've had some rough roads. And so that can be a barrier for some types of funding, not for all. And it's certainly not as big of an issue for ABL because it's primarily underwritten off of the assets. Most clients don't have the assets, not a problem. We can provide them the assets legally and ethically. The assets that we provide not only can be used as collateral, but then they can also be collected, resulting money in the bank, in the pocket, if you will, of the clients. So who has questions, comments, concerns on ABL? I know we ran out of time yesterday. So any questions, comments, concerns on ABL or the promotion? What do you need to know so when you leave today's Zoom, when we wrap it up here in a couple minutes, that we're all on the same page? So this doesn't change what we do. right? We still go out and educate, but frankly, you could generate a lot of buzz if you started educating about ABL because a lot of people don't know what you know. But this is not all that we do. We educate, we provide the free Shelf Corp, which is part of the process that we talked about down here. Then we help the client build the loan package, we get them their assets, and then we get the funding. Tim's asking about opening a branch. So if someone is interested in opening a branch office, you would go to our website, 509pacific.org, and there's I believe four required or requested training videos or resources. So you'll watch that and then fill out that form, and then we can send you the branch packet. So it's real simple, Tim. You can do that on 509pacific.org. Kenny asked, does it report? Well, there's not a singular it, right? So there's over 2,000 different lenders, different loan programs, and so some will report to DNB and some won't. So we always got to be careful. If we narrow it down to an it, there's usually not a singular answer. It's going to be, yeah, some cases yes, some cases no. It depends. It depends on the lender and the loan program. But yeah, some will report on DNB, some won't. All right. JC's asking about the pricing. Yeah. So for the limited time promotion, so I can't commit that this will be long term because we're really subsidizing this. It should be more. It could be more. These are real assets, right? We're giving up our assets to help the clients. Now, since we are doing the liquidation, we're generating income from it based upon the results, so it makes it worthwhile. If we weren't liquidating, there's no way in the world we would sell these for 1% because it's worth much more. JC, though, asks, so I mean, most people will just pay the 1%. If they don't have the 1%, we can help them apply with approved credit for a loan to pay the 1%. But most people just have the liquidity if they're using this type of strategy. All right. Selena says, to recap, it's 1% of the 1 million for them to enroll for the ABL. No, that's a horrible understanding. There's not an enrollment in the ABL. The ABL is just one of the funding strategies that we can offer. So everyone goes through the same process, right? They start by getting a Shelf Corp from you, Selena. Then we're going to get them their loan package put together, determine what's the right type of capital based upon their wants, their needs, and their mitigating circumstances. If they want to do ABL, then we can transfer the assets to them. If they don't want an ABL, they may not need that step. And then we get them funding, we guarantee. So there's not a separate enrollment in ABL. It's just one of many different funding strategies that you and I can help clients with. All right, let's see. Greg asks, where do you go to become a reseller? Well, also on 509pacific.org, there's information towards the middle of the page about being a distribution partner. And with that, there's a checkbox, and there's check boxes, and there's a box for being a branch. There's a checkbox for being a reseller. So it's on 509 Pacific. Still there. May look a little different, but it's still there. All right, Selena says, okay. Bilal's got more questions about the branch office. So I definitely would go back and listen to the prior trainings that we did on the branch office. That warrants more discussion than just a 30-second synopsis. But yes, if you'd like to have a branch office, you can also go to 509pacific.org, and several of the training videos are actually parked on there. But get yourself familiar with it, and then let us know via text below if you have any specific questions that we can help you with. Let's see. JC asked a fee to transfer the collateral. Okay, so let's go back to that. So when we're transferring collateral, it has to be a legitimate asset transfer. It can't be a wink wink deal. That could be considered fraudulent practice, right? If we're trying to defraud the bank by making them think that the borrower is more credible than what they are. So it has to be legitimate. So just like if JC, if you bought a new piece of real estate, or not a new piece, but if you bought a piece of real estate, it needs to be deeded into your name. It needs to have lawful ownership transferred from the seller to you, the buyer. Same thing when we're talking about accounts receivables. So we have all the documentation put together and it's built around a bill of sale. So it literally shows ownership has transferred from us to the client. Well, once the client owns the asset, the AR, now it can be reflected on their financials and it's for their use. So those are the mechanics. It has to be done right. It has to be done legitimately. Some people say, well, why don't you just loan me the AR? Well, that doesn't work, because if it's loaned to you, it's not yours, so it's not going to be reflected on your balance sheet, and you can't pledge something for collateral for a loan that you don't own. It doesn't work that way. Kenny's asking more about the liquidation. So again, the beautiful thing about the liquidation is we add on top, and this is redundant, I know, but just because of your question, I want to go back to it. So when we're collecting the money, we add the collection and legal fees on top of the principal amount. Therefore, we're paid from the debtor, not from your client, not from the creditor. So that's the way it works. So it's great, right? So essentially, the client's getting the assets for a penny on the dollar. Can't beat that. That's a steal. And then we're liquidating it, and they don't have to pay us to liquidate. We're actually working we're eating what we kill, as they say, and that allows us to be able to help the client more so, and we collect the collection and legal fees from the debtor. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, some of you are very sophisticated, so this is getting you really excited, and some folks aren't so sophisticated, so it's kind of overwhelming. So if it's too much for you, don't feel like you need to be an expert in ABL, but you just need to know that as a reseller or as a branch office, we have a number of ways, everything from SBA loans and non-SBA loans. We talked earlier this week about private credit. And then yesterday and today, we've talked about a unique type of funding program called ABL. It's mainstream, it's legal, it's ethical. It's just most average entrepreneurs haven't had access to it because A, no one educated them about it, which you can fix that. And then secondly, most of them don't qualify. They don't have the assets. Well, in our model, running through our nonprofit, we're literally providing them the assets. It's incredible if you understand it. If you don't understand it, that's okay. Just go back to doing what you were doing. Corey brings up a good point, and we talked about this yesterday. I didn't recap it today. Because the client is getting funding and we're liquidating the AR, the design of it is to liquidate the AR so the collection money collected from the liquidation is enough to meet or exceed the monthly loan repayment amount. So you could argue, it's a little bit wordsmithing, but you could argue that they get the $1 million loan for free because we're using money from the liquidation to pay the monthly payment. And that's huge. That's huge. JCS, can client pay by financing? Well, we've covered that a couple times, haven't we? So we said that the limited time promotion, it's 1% of the asset value for the $1 million portfolio, and we can do larger than $1 million if that's what they need. And they can either pay for that out of pocket, which is the norm, or if they need financing with approved credit, we can facilitate third-party financing. All right, well, this is a big deal, and if it doesn't seem like it to you, that's okay. But for those of you that are a little more sophisticated that have been in this space, This is a solution that I suspect probably 5 or 7 out of 10 of your clients are going to be attracted to. It's faster, it's easier, it's quicker, and it's allowing the clients to have a larger capital raise than they typically would otherwise. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We again are shuffling over into the new building the rest of this week. Madison and her team will actually be transferring over this afternoon, so she'll be in the new building in the new offices tomorrow. I'll probably switch over early next week, but good to see you all. Let us know if you need anything. Best thing to do is to text us 903-347-8042. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye bye.